Hi, welcome to the Knits and Things podcast. My name is Heather. I am Heather219 on Instagram and Ravelry. You can find me on YouTube under the Heather V channel and at my blog, which is knitsandthings.wordpress.com. I don't think I've updated that lately though, which is why I'm laughing. Like I could send people to the blog, but they might not find anything. You could probably click an old link and find the YouTube videos, maybe. So, hi, welcome to March. Today is Friday, March 6th, 2013. 2013. Today is Friday, March 6th, 2015. And today was my 7th snow day. I think it was 7. I think I counted up earlier. We've been closed 7 days this winter. You know how many days my school system builds into their calendar to allow for snow days? This many. 0. No snow days built in. We've been closed 7 days. If you're not going to build any snow days in, then you might want to be a little bit more choosy when you just close school. So I don't think we have had, and usually the month of February and March up until spring break hits usually go by so slowly, and we're all like, oh my gosh, another 5-day week, I can't take it. Oh. We haven't had a full week of school since Christmas break. We've had delays and closings and crazy talk since Christmas break. Since we came back from Christmas break on, I believe we went back on January 3rd or 4th. We haven't had a full week. We've been closed and or delayed at least one day every week, and usually it's 2 or 3 days. Crazy. Last week we had 2 days of school. We were closed Monday because Sunday there was a huge ice storm, and I live just outside D.C., by the way, if anybody didn't know. We were closed Monday because we had an ice storm on Sunday, which is what usually happens around here. It usually comes down as ice. In some way, shape, or form, beginning or end of a storm there's usually ice involved. So ice storm Sunday, where temperatures were not going to go above freezing on Monday until midday, noon. So Monday school was closed. We got a notice Sunday night that there was a 2-hour delay, and then I have my phone set up to receive the text messages from the school system, and they usually come in the mornings. If there's going to be a delay or whatever, they usually come in at about 5:45. So I was procrastinating about getting out of bed. No, I wasn't, because there was already a 2-hour delay. 2-hour delay, phone goes off, 5:45 anyway. I'm like, who's texting me? There's a delay. Why am I being woken up? And before I even opened my eyes fully to look at the phone, I thought, you're kidding me. Nope. School closed. So then I taught on Tuesday all day long. Wednesday, I was only there for a half day. I left. I had a sub come in the afternoon for me, and I'll tell you about that later. But the kids had 2 days of school. They had Tuesday and Wednesday. We were off Thursday because that was the day it snowed, and we were off today because it's once again 20 degrees at the most today. So it's actually late. It's 5 o'clock now, I think. So the school day has been over, but we were closed. So 3 days closed this week. I keep joking that I'm going to start looking up plans for the 4th of July, lesson plans for 4th of July, which I've never, ever had to do because we're out usually by June 16th, which is my sister's birthday. Before this week, we were already extended until June 22nd, and now we've been closed 3 more days. So anyway, enough of that. I know everybody's had a crazy winter. For us, it only happens about every 5 years. So... and one more real quick aside, and then I swear I'm going to talk about knitting. So 5 years ago was the last time we had a crazy winter like this. That just happened to be the winter that my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I was thinking about all of this during all the crazy storms and everything this week. And I thought, oh, well, I wonder where we'll be in 5 more years. And then I was like, oh, pale, color washes away. My son will be a senior in high school in 5 years. And I'm just a little bit freaking out about it. I still can't grasp the fact he just turned 13. So I still can't even grasp that fact. Like, I have a teenager. What? So, all right, we're supposed to be talking about knitting. I swear I'm going to talk about knitting, and I'll talk about some more personal stuff later. So, knitting. So, and I don't think I'm going to do segments today because really all I have to talk about is knitting, so it's going to be all thing one. So, thing one for now, finished object. How about that? So, this is my Miranda pullover. I knit this as part of the Miranda Knit Along with Steph of the Knitting Samurai. And it was generally she wanted to do a short sleeve sweater, and Miranda was what most people chose to knit, although some people knit other sweaters as well. So this was my Miranda. I knit it out of Elspeth Lavold Silky Wool XL, which is the heavier weight. It's more like a worsted weight yarn. And I always feel like Aran weight, which is what the pattern Miranda called for, is supposed to be heavier than worsted, but I get the feeling that nowadays they're very similar. Like Aran and worsted are pretty much the same. If you want something a little lighter, you think DK, but a lot of times DK and worsted are the same, right? And am I the only one that feels this way? I don't know. I know there are technically supposed to be categories, and I always felt it went DK, worsted, Aran. But lately it seems like worsted and Aran are like interchangeable. So I don't know. The pattern called for Aran weight. I used worsted weight. And then I still had to go down a little bit. But I swear, I have this thing with silky wool. I have knit, this is the third or fourth garment I've knit with silky wool, and every single one of them have turned out too big. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because the silk content and it's light and airy and kind of fluffy, and I don't know, but I checked my gauge before I started knitting, and then I picked out the size to knit, and when I got just a little bit past the armholes, I checked again, and it was huge. So I decreased a couple stitches on the sides and started knitting the next size pattern down. And I think it turned out well. So I'm going to stand up so you can see it. I hope you don't see any of my messy room behind me. And I'm sitting on my spinning stool, so I have to make sure that I can stand up without falling. So here is Miranda. It's got this center panel of cable that goes down, and it also has this lovely pocket. I knit the short sleeve version. No hood. I thought about doing a hood, and I do have enough yarn to do a hood, but I was done knitting Miranda when I got to this point, so I'm just done. And I've worn it twice now, so I think it's official. So this is my Miranda. That's my only... No, it's not my only finished object. I'm wearing another one. This was my big finished object. And then the month changed, and I somewhat finished a pair of socks, but not really, so I'll show you those in a minute. So I went back into my bag of yarn for sock knitting. It's all sock yarn, but I don't necessarily have to knit socks out of it, so it's like a year-long challenge that I'm doing for myself. So I have this bag of sock yarn. I'm supposed to pull out one a month to knit a pair of socks a month. It hasn't quite been working that way, but we're still going with it. But I've been close. I finished a pair that I had started in 2014 and gave those away to my one of my cabbie girlfriends when we were in San Diego. So that was one pair that I finished this year. Did I finish a pair for myself? I almost finished the pair that I'll show you in a minute that was actually started during this year. I knit those, started those. Well, I've downloaded a ton with all my snow days. I've downloaded a ton of new podcasts onto my iPad, and I think it was protesting. So I went and deleted a bunch of the old episodes, but I still have a bunch on there that I haven't listened to or watched yet. So I hope everything will fit. I hope. So I was talking about socks. I have the pair of socks that I started while I was on the cruise that are pretty much finished. I'm putting heels in, and I'll talk about those and how my knitting attacked me when I talk about those. So it was time to start a new pair, a new sock yarn skein. So I pulled out the bag. My cute little dad just happened to be walking by at the time. I said, reach in here and pull out a skein. So he pulled out this lovely skein that you see here, which I have tried to knit into socks before, and it did not work. This is, am I going to be able to find this skein? This is a beautiful skein of yarn, but it's fingering weight, but it has mohair in it. So it did not want to be socks. I tried knitting it like I said, a while before. And it did not want to be socks. I tried to knit it into some Bellatrix socks. I'm sorry if you're shaking. I'm putting bags down on the bed. Did not want to be Bellatrix socks. So when he handed it to me, I thought, oh, well, maybe I'm not knitting socks, which is why I'm done already. So I decided I really wanted to knit is it Rike hat? I've seen Fat Squirrel wear hers. I've seen tons of people wear theirs, and I thought it would be a very cute hat to knit, and it is a very cute hat to knit. The problem is I don't like mohair. It's really kind of annoying me right now. I can feel it. If you have seen, I've done this a couple times, right? It's a little itchy. So I was thinking also, if you can see, I should probably take it off. I'm going to take it off. Forgive my hair. I haven't done it in 2 days because it's been a snow day. So, I know, right? Crazy. If you can see the colors, everything looks hazy in here when I record in here, but then it seems to be okay when I put it on YouTube, so I hope it's okay. But if you can see the colors, it's got like a black background, and then rainbow. There's green, there's yellow, there's orange, there's red, there's pink, I don't think there's any blue, but there's, all those different colors. And while I love the skein, I still actually have one end to weave in as well. I did the decrease weaving, but I didn't do the beginning weaving. I love the colors, and I love the yarn, even though it's got the mohair, so it's too itchy for me to wear and to want to wear all the time. It might actually be okay, like if I just wore it for like going back and forth to work, because I live like 5 minutes from where I work, although it takes me a little longer to get to work these days. But I don't have a black coat. All my coats are brown. So I'm thinking, I do have a black leather coat, and I wear it once in a while. I wore it last weekend when I went to a funeral. That's the first time I've worn it in probably maybe 1 or 2 years. Like sometimes if I'm dressed up and I have to wear black, then I'll wear that. But I have brown coats. I have a brown tweed coat, and I have a brown down coat. I have a brown coat, so black is not going to work. So I have a couple options. I was thinking, my sister loves black. She asked me actually for a sockhead hat. Sockhead hats take a lot longer than this one. So I was like, I could just give her this one. But with the itching, I'm like, she's probably not going to like that either. I also have a coworker who hinted that she would like it, and I think she's very knit-worthy. But I'm thinking with the itchy, she might not like it either. So I'm wondering, I just heard a couple podcasters talk about, is it Remy? The Knitting for Remy, where you knit hats? But maybe I could donate it there. And then somebody who would actually be able to say like, oh yes, I would like this hat, would be able to use it. And they would kind of know what they were getting into, rather than having somebody gift it to them and kind of feeling obligated to wear it, and then being like, oh my gosh, that hat itches. So I don't know. I'm not keeping it, is what we do know. What we don't know is exactly who's going to get it. So Rike hat, another finished. I'm going to call it finished, even though I have that end to weave in, and I like it. So I was looking at more sock yarn to hold double to knit it with, because it's supposed to be knit with a DK weight yarn. But I have 2 yarns, one that's kind of a purple and yellow, and one that's kind of a gray and green mix, that I got from Doghouse Yarns when I went in that direction in Virginia one time. And I got them for baby gifts, but they're like a very light fingering weight. They're like almost lace weight. And so they've been just kind of sitting. I did do a baby hat for one coworker out of the purple and yellow, but the other 2 skein, the rest of that skein and the other skein are just sitting there. So I'm thinking maybe if I do the green and gray, would be kind of a good color to knit up, and do the same thing where I hold it double and knit this hat, and it has definitely enough yarn. This hat is actually a little bit shallower than it's supposed to be. I had to stop the knitting at 7 inches to start the decreases, and you're supposed to knit until 9 inches. So it's supposed to be a lot slouchier. But I ran out of yarn. I actually waited until about 8.5, because I thought I was getting a little low, and started my decreases, and about halfway through the decreases I had to rip it back and go back down. So I went down to 7 inches to do the decreases, and I think it worked fine. But the other very light fingering skeins have like 560 yards, and this one only had 400. Not even 400. Just shy. Oh, here's the tag right here. This is Fleece Artist. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. Fleece Artist, and it has, so it's 325 meters, which is not, even once you convert it to yards, that's not 400 yards, right? I never do that conversion right. But this is 65% merino, 20% kid mohair, 10% nylon, and 5% silk. So I was thinking, I think when I picked it up, I was thinking that the nylon and silk would cancel out the kid merino, or kid mohair. It doesn't. So, and I guess, is this the color, Somoko, or is that the type of yarn? I don't know, but very cute. And I think this yarn was actually a souvenir from when my son and I took a cruise. We were testing out our traveling legs. I think I've mentioned that before. Sorry, I know I disappeared. And we took a cruise to Canada. Who takes a cruise to Canada? But it was a very nice cruise, and I loved Halifax. Oh my gosh. Oh, we stopped at St. John and Halifax. Loved it. I'm going to become Canadian when I retire. Okay, so those are the two finished objects. What else am I working on? These are the socks that I have finished but not finished. So I was knitting from some Deborah Norville sock yarn, from the big box stores, this cool pink striped yarn. I started these on the cruise that we took over New Year's to the Bahamas. For my coworker, for my friend who we drove with. We took her car. We both have kids with type 1 diabetes. It was the cruise for diabetes, so we rode together because we were coming from this general area and needed to go to Florida. Neither one of us wanted to pay for 2 airline tickets for our family to go there, so we drove together. So these socks are supposed to be for her, except that I'm stupid and I second-guessed the measurements for inserting the heel. And now I don't think these socks are going to fit her. I'm going to see her tomorrow. Tomorrow there's a research summit for type 1 diabetes in this area. We live, like I said, outside the D.C. area, so this is a big place to come. So it's like an annual conference, and they fly people in that have knowledge and work with type 1 diabetes research in all different areas for a living, and they come in and they give great talks and they tell us the latest stuff going on. A lot of stuff I know already, but it's really fun to go there and see like exactly who the faces are behind the names that I've heard, and actually get the up-to-date latest stuff, because you're not reading a paper that somebody published a couple months ago, you're not reading a book that somebody published a couple years ago, you're getting it from the people's mouths. I love it. So we are going to see each other tomorrow, and I will have her try these on. I don't think they're going to fit. It's supposed to be for a size 8 foot. My mother, who is a size 7.5, tried them on, and the toe seam was like underneath her foot. So I think I'll be gifting these to somebody else. Who, I don't know, but whatever. So these socks are almost done. I have to put the toe or the heel in on this one, which is actually just a toe. I have to put the heel in on this one, and then I'm done with that, no problem. The green yarn might look familiar. Last time I recorded, I showed the mystery socks that I was knitting out of that yarn, and I ripped them out. Remember I said they were too big, and I wasn't going to spend more time knitting on something that I knew was too big than the time I had already put into them. Does that make sense? So I had just started the toe. It wasn't a big deal, so I went ahead and ripped them out and decided I'd use them for something else. I was actually going to use that green yarn for this month's sock, but then I felt like starting something new. And I think I might have already ripped them out when I had my cute little dad pull this skein out for me. So, and I never show bags, and I love to buy bags to keep my knitting in, so I'm going to try and remember to start showing bags now. So this is a bag I got from the Silver Shed. Cute little bag. I bought these right around Christmas time. I think maybe just after Christmas time. She had a promotional code going. That is long over. But I bought these 2 different owl bags from her, and I sent one to my cousin who lives in Vermont because her birthday is in January, and we always forget to get a Christmas box out to her on time. So she always gets a box from our family in between Christmas and her birthday. And then she usually is very frugal, and she will open a couple things at Christmas time, or a couple things when she gets the box, and she'll like spread it out so it lasts all the way till her birthday, because she's so self-controlled like that. So cute little bag. I kept this one, and I sent her one that looked very like hippie-ish, 70s-ish, with the bigger owl motifs, and the owls had the huge big eyes. Very cute. But I thought that one looked a little more like her, and I like this one, so I kept it. So that's one thing in progress. The other thing in progress is I did pick out another skein of sock yarn. This yarn went with me on the cruise too. This was supposed to have been the socks that I cast on New Year's, and then I was being all dutiful and cast on for the ones that were supposed to be for my friend instead. But this yarn I love. This yarn is Goth Socks, and somebody recognized it right off the bat on Instagram. And I'm sorry, I'm horrible with names, and especially when I just see them and don't read them and say them out loud or something. Goth Yarns. Is this the one? I don't think this is it. Oh, it is. Goth Yarns. Self-striping. Yes. In the Heaven or Hell colorway. And, I'm going to show you this whole tag. So there's a yarn. It's got like a minty bluish green here, which kind of looks white. And then it goes into deep plums and purples. So there's the deep part almost looks black. It's so deep purple, but I think it's really purple. And then on either side, when it starts and when it stops, you have this kind of strawberry cherry red. So cute, cute, cute. Self-striping. I'm just going to do a 3x1 rib up the front and then around the whole leg. And it's just going to be a plain sock. And I'm probably going to do this similar to what I did with what I've been doing, which is just a big tube, and I'll put in an afterthought heel because it's really fun to do. I'm going to knit on this all day tomorrow during the research summit. So I'm going to show you this whole tag, though, because gothsocksyarn.com, is that the company? And then, but up here it says Rainy Days and Woolly Dogs. So I don't know exactly which one it is. And can you see my dry cuticles? I just finished doing my nails. I spent a lot of time today doing my nails, actually going back and painting them and everything. And I put on new Jamberry wraps. And when you do the Jamberry wraps, you have to have your nails completely dry, as in no oils, no lotions, no cuticle oil, nothing, or the wraps won't stick like they're supposed to. So I always feel like I have such dry cuticles just after that. So later on tonight, after a couple hours have gone by, I will slather some oil on and relieve them. But for right now, they're going to be dry so that my cute little manicure will last. Alright, so that is in progress. The socks that I'm finishing, and then I really want to knit a sweater. I had been kind of getting out of sweater knitting. I think it was because of all the cabbie stuff, because they have such cute jackets, and I have so many cool things to wear with the, with having all of that around, that I kind of was like, I really don't care to knit a sweater. But then Miranda kind of got me back in the swing. And so I want to knit a new sweater. And what I really wanted to do, I even bought an extra skein of yarn thinking that I was going to do it. I really wanted to do a pattern called Dirty Martini. I'm going to try and pull it up for you. Dirty Martini, I'm not going to remember the designer's name, but it's a really cute pattern. It's not the one. There is a Dirty Martini by... There's a designer that does... Oh, her name is right there. Why can't I get it? There's a designer who does, like, all of her patterns are Dirty Martini, Vodka Gimlet. I knit one in green a couple years ago. Well, all of her patterns are drink related, which is great. But it's not hers. Why can't I remember her name? I can't. But it's not hers. It's a different designer. And I think this designer is relatively new. She has the Modish Knits group on Ravelry. And I'm looking up the pattern right now. I know. I have the other two ready to show you. Because this is not what I'm going to knit, but it's what I wanted to knit. And I still do want to knit it. It's going to be a little bit different. So it's not Thea Coleman. It's It's not her Dirty Martini, which, I don't know, these are very small pictures. Can you see them? So it's not, this is not the one I was thinking of. This is the one I was thinking of, which is very similar to the ones that I'm going to replace it with. So this Dirty Martini, I'm going to show you which is the best picture. Oh, it's so pretty. But it's more like a jacket type. More like a jacket's. And it's got 2 colors of yarn. Can you see that? Very pretty. Can you see the extra color down there too? It's on the sleeves. It's down at the hem. And if you can see, it goes around the collar as well. But that is not the one I'm going to do because I got it in my mind. So it's not going anywhere. I got it in my mind that I wanted to use some neighborhood fiber yarn that I have on hand. And I was just shy of what I needed, and I only had 1 color. So I picked out a new color to use, and I ordered that. So I have it here and everything, and now I'm not going to do it. So there's another picture of the collar. Very pretty. But that's not what I'm going to do. Instead, the reason I'm not going to use it, let me go into that. The reason I'm not going to use it is because the yarn that I have from Neighborhood Fiber Company is sport weight. That pattern is supposed to be knit up in worsted weight. So a lot of difference. And I could change the gauge and knit it, figure out which alternate size to use. And I could probably get away if I just went up to the 1X size instead of the medium size. Excuse me. I could probably do it. But I don't have enough yarn, and I'm not buying any more yarn. I have a whole sweater's worth. I can do something with this. I'm sure there's stuff in my favorites or in my queue ready to go, right? Yes, there were. So I am swatching. And this is the Neighborhood Fiber yarn. I really hope that this is coming out. It looks like a smoky gray blob right there, but it's really a beautiful foresty green and like a sky blue gray and a good almost true navy. Oh, it's just maybe like royal. Really beautiful variegated skeins. I have them all skeined up. This is the Neighborhood Fiber yarn. I have 3 of these skeins that I got at Maryland Sheep and Wool last year with the intent to do the Goodale cardigan. Don't want that anymore. So then I bought this, and this is her Studio Sport. It's actually more like a DK weight, but there are 355 yards in each skein. The blue color is, because I never remember her colors, the blue is Easterwood, and to go along with the Easterwood, I got Cooper Circle to go with it, which is kind of an orangey red, like a brick red. So these 2 are going to go together, but not in the Dirty Martini. So the 2 that I'm considering, and I think I know which one I'm going to go with. I printed them out today. I was thinking when I did my search in Ravelry, I did the advanced search, and I went and I just searched for the amount of yarn I had in sport weight yarn, and I searched for sweater patterns, and then I actually asked it to tell me what was in my queue, and Vitamin D came up. So Vitamin D is this cute little open flowy cardigan by Heidi Kermer. Very cute. I've wanted to knit that for a while. It's kind of got a little bit of open work type things there across the back and across the front, and I think there's a lot of kind of short row shaping. I'm trying to see if there's any more pattern pictures to show you. There's another cute picture of how the drape goes across the front, and so that is an option, but I don't think I'm going to take it because I found another one, a Joji Locatelli pattern that I had wanted to knit before as well, and that I had actually already bought, that I think I'll knit because it's very much in the same style as the Dirty Martini. So this one is called Spring Showers, and I'm going to cover up the whole entire screen. So spring showers is very much the same idea, as in it's a long tunic-y length, more like a jacket. I like that we're heading into warmer weather, I hope. So I like that it's got the short sleeves. So I think this is going to be it. This also fits much better with my yarn requirements. So I have 1,400 yards, but I have 1,400 yards in the 2 different colors. I have right at 1,000 yards in just the blue. And so in vitamin D, I would need 1,200 yards of yarn. So there's one thing against vitamin D. Also for vitamin D, I don't know about using the 2 colors. I could probably go ahead and do it at the very edge, or I could do maybe a couple of the short row wedges in the body in the other color to kind of use up the yarn and get my yardage. But I don't know how that would work. And in spring showers, I think it would be a little bit easier. So let me find a couple more pictures of spring showers to show you that it's a long, I love that length for a jacket or a sweater. I think it would look very nice and professional at work or doing the other little kind of cabbie things. I could wear some of my cabbie stuff under it. I love that it goes side to side like that. So unique construction really gets me too. And you know what I really like? I love Joji's schematics. I don't think if I just show you the schematics without showing you the numbers, that's violating anything, right? So look at her schematics. I love how the pictures are. She tells you, you know, this is how you're knitting it. These are where you need to find your measurements, and then she gives you a chart that has the measurements on it. So cute. And then she shows you where everything would go. Again, I'm going to just show you the picture. I'm not going to show you any numbers. So there again are where you would need to measure so that you can check the measurements, and then she lists them right there. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, and you can listen. You can say, oh, I think I need to knit the blank size, and you can look and you say, okay, well, that part's going to be that much, and the armhole's going to be that much. So you can check and really know that you're knitting the right size for you. So I think it's going to be spring showers. What do you think? I think that's going to be it. I was going to put up a poll, but I think my mind's pretty much made up. So that, I think, is it. I think that's it. The rest of what I'm going to talk about all has to deal with diabetes. Actually, it has to deal with diabetes, and it has to deal with the way our country's laws work and everything else. So if you would like to stick around and hear that, awesome. If not, I will see you next month, and I hope your knitting makes you happy. If you do want to hear it, so the reason that I only taught 1 day this week, maybe that's why I'm so bored, because when we were off, when they told us the notice came through Thursday night that our county would be closed on Friday too, I went, oh, you're kidding. Like, I just felt like I'm so bored right now. Even with all my knitting and reading, I felt like, really, I'm not going to work again. So, anyway, so the reason I was off Wednesday afternoon is I went to Annapolis, Maryland, which is where our Maryland State House is, to meet with the Senate and give my testimony for why I think they should support this bill. Is called Senate Bill 672, which is the Safe at Schools, or actually it's the Student Diabetes Management Bill, which basically allows for kids like my son with type 1 diabetes to be able to do a little more on their own. Currently, and not to knock nurses or anything, I think they're needed. I think that any school that has a medical issue, a student with a medical issue, should have a nurse. But I do not think that, especially for something like diabetes, that students should have to go see the nurse every time they do anything with their diabetes, especially as they get older. Like right now, my son is 13. He knows not to. Actually, he knows not to. But like I said, he's 13. So lately he has been putting stuff in his mouth without bolusing for it first. But he knows he's supposed to bolus when he eats. He knows how to count his carbs. He knows to check with somebody if he's unsure. He shouldn't have to be in front of the nurse where kids have been puking and come down there when they're sick and have germs to check with her before he boluses. And every morning he always takes his lunch to school. And every morning when I make his lunch, I write out his carbs on a piece of paper and I put it in his lunchbox. So he knows exactly what to bolus for. He knows exactly how much insulin to give him, to give himself. So part of the bill is allowing them to be a little bit more self-regulatory. Another big thing for parents is in a lot of schools, they try and insist, and they, meaning the school in general, not just the nurses, but a lot of schools want to insist that a child go to the nurse if they are feeling low or high and feel like they need to check their blood sugar. Anytime they need to check their blood sugar, they're supposed to go to the nurse. The schools that we've dealt with have never made that mandatory. For about the first year or so my son was in public school, he felt that he wanted to do that, and then he kind of got over it. But that means that sometimes he's walking to the nurse's room, and sometimes by himself, when he doesn't feel good, when there's a chance that he could pass out. So that's part of the bill. That needs to be done away with. They should be able to check whenever and wherever they need to without a nurse's help. And these things are not, again, it's not to knock the nurses. This is stuff that happens in real life. He doesn't have a nurse. There's no nurse that lives in this house. Actually, there is a nurse that lives in this house. But if it was just myself and my son in an apartment somewhere, in a house somewhere by ourselves, there's no nurse around him 24 hours a day. So there doesn't need to be a nurse involved in everything he does at school all the time, is basically what we're all saying. Now, the one thing that the nurses really want to try and hold on to is what happens if a child with diabetes has a low blood sugar emergency where they are unconscious. What the nurses would like to do is, well, the nurses don't like the treatment that's out there anyway, because it's a multi-step process. If someone is unconscious because of a low blood sugar, they need a lot of glucose, a lot of sugar, very quickly. And what they need to do is they need to have their liver kick out sugar right now, stop the low blood sugar, bring it back up, stop anything further from happening to this kid, to this person. And that takes a medicine that actually my son carries around with him and nobody knows. He carries around with him, his teachers know. And it has to be reconstituted. So there's a lot of steps to it. And it has a big needle. And that wigs some people out. And so what we found is, number one, the people who would normally be in the chain of command for things that the nurse would hand off get wigged out because there's a needle involved. And if they ever saw the needle, they'd probably really say, mm-mm. The thing is, if the child needs it, they're not going to be awake to tell you you're not giving me that needle. They're not going to know that you're giving them the needle anyway, which is the sad part. But the nurses want to, instead of relying on that, because it takes all those steps, they want to rely on just plain old straight sugar. So there is a product that you can buy at Target and Walmart and grocery stores all across the country. A little tube of cake decorating gel. It's called Cake Mate Gel. And my son does carry those in his bag. The problem is, if your child was passed out on the ground or having a seizure on the ground because their blood sugar was so low, would you really want to rely on that? Or would you want to rely on the medicine that your doctor prescribed to you? Which is my big thing with this whole issue. So I took off Wednesday afternoon, went to Annapolis, sat before, I keep saying the Ways and Means Committee, but there was a even more separate specialized committee for educational and something or other concerns that we sat in front of and gave our testimony to. There were 5 of us. Myself, I was asked, because I'm a parent who's also a teacher. There was also another teacher there who has type 1 himself. There was an endocrinologist there who gave her testimony, and there was a woman who actually works for Novo Nordisk, which is a pharmaceutical company that provides a lot of medicines and assistance to people with diabetes. So was that 4 of us or 5 of us? I feel like there were 5, but that sounds like only 4. So we all sat and gave our testimony for why they should support this bill. We had 2 sponsors from the Senate, 2 different senators that sponsored us, think that this should go through. One who had been a nurse in her previous life, yay, and one whose sister had type 1 diagnosed at 10 who actually passed away at 35, and I do believe it was from complications from diabetes. So they both supported us. We think it's all going to go through, even though we did have 2 nurses come up and oppose us. But their arguments were just ridiculous and invalid and annoying. And for everything, no one refuted any of our testimony. We did have a couple questions for the one teacher and for the endocrinologist. We're both asked questions, kind of clarifying type questions after we had done our testimony. Nobody asked me anything. But then after the 2 nurses gave their testimony, one senator did ask some kind of clarifying questions, and she was kind of being given misleading answers by the nurses, and I think the nurses knew that. And then, but this one senator, Senator Young, love him, who had the sister with type 1, kind of came back and kind of, refuted their testimony and was like, yeah, but really, that's not going to work, and this is not really what we're trying to say. Yes, we still think that you deserve to have a job. We love having you around, but we'd rather have this bill. So, pretty much, we're not voting for you. So, we think it's going to go through for the Senate. Next week, I go back and I do the same thing for the House, which we know we have lots and lots of supporters on the House side. The Senate side was kind of a couple weeks ago. I think last time I recorded, I talked about going in and trying to convince people to sign on to this and to support it. So that was a lot of work that we were doing then, was trying to get people from the Senate on to our side. I don't quite know why we have so much support in one side and not the other, but we go back next Friday the 13th, I do believe, to Annapolis to do the same thing for the House, and everybody's thinking that one's going to go much more smoothly. We think the nurses will probably still show up. We're thinking they might bring back up now, since there were only 2 of them and a bazillion of us. But yeah, that was what I went and did, and the cool things that I've been doing with and for diabetes these days. My son did not go this week. He is going to go with me next week, because I just think, how could you not take your kid to this, right? And see the inside workings of the government, really? So he actually, I had emailed his school and asked them when exactly, because it's a big testing time right now. March is all about testing for Common Core nonsense. So I had emailed them and emailed the testing coordinator and said, what days is he testing? Because this is, I have the opportunity to do this. And she was like, it really doesn't matter what days he's testing, because he absolutely will be excused to go down to see the government in work, or, in action. So he took it upon himself, knowing that I was going the 2 different days. He took it upon himself to not go this week, because I'm going next week, and the next week he does not have tests scheduled. That might change now because of all the closings, but on a Friday afternoon, I don't think they do much testing anyway. I think Mondays, first thing Monday and last thing Friday are not times that they really kind of push for testing. So, that is me this month. Knitting, legislating, trying not to be bored on snow days. That's about it. So until next month, hopefully it might not be too much of a break, since we're kind of nearing the middle of the month. So I hope to see you in April. And actually, yes, I might record during spring break, because we have spring break up until the 10th of April. So I might get an early recording out next month. But until then, I'll see you on Instagram and Ravelry, and I hope your knitting makes you happy.